Hey guys, it's Commander Hawk, back with another Star Wars versus episode. Today we will put the clones, Stormtroopers, and the First Order against each other. There will be 7 different categories the armies will be judged on. Then I will give my opinion of which army is the best at the end. The first category we will judge the armies on is skill. We can throw out the Stormtroopers right away due to their inability to hit a shot. The First Order troopers were stolen from their families and were trained right after that, up to the point that they're ready for combat. While that is good training, the clones were genetically modified and cloned from Boba Fett to be the perfect trooper. Like more stamina, just everything to build a super trooper. They were also trained from birth, but the superior genetics give them the win. So clone gets the first point in skill. Numbers play a huge role in deciding the outcome of a battle, and that is why it is the second category. The clones had 4.2 million troopers during the war against the Separatists. While the Stormtroopers' numbers are not known, it is significantly more than that of the clones' numbers. The First Order numbers have also not been released to us and probably won't, but it is definitely smaller than that of the Empire, so the Empire takes the second category. Which army is better equipped is huge in deciding the outcome of an otherwise pretty even battle, so that is why equipment is the third category. The clones had multiple different versions of two versions of armor known as Phase 1 and Phase 2. I will be using Phase 2 for the clones in this battle, and Phase 2 was very comfortable for the clones to wear, unlike that of Phase 1, and Phase 2 was able to be modified quite easily with binoculars, jetpacks, and many more extra modifications go with it. Then it's the Stormtrooper armor, which is based off actually the clone Phase 2 armor, but had better protection as it would spread out the blast more, often knocking out the person inside rather than killing them. So pretty much the difference between it and the clone is while it protects a certain area where you get hit less, it protects you in general more. And then the First Order's armor was based on that of the Stormtroopers. It is, like Stormtroopers, very strong. Even in Phasma actually said that not even a Wookiee could break First Order armor. How true this is, we don't know. Listen first, that it was much stronger than the armor of the Stormtroopers. While we have not seen too many modifications on it yet, there has been targeting systems that have been modified in from canon sources. So they are able to be modification along with the Stormtrooper gear, which Battlefront has shown that they can be equipped with jetpacks. But in the end, this category goes the strongest armor, which would be that of the First Order. Space combat is also a huge factor in the Star Wars universe warfare, therefore earning a place as a category. The clones cruisers were the Jedi cruiser, and they were kind of an all-around cruiser meant to fight. They were not so good against other ships, but they could very easily land ground troops and stuff like that. But the Empire had lots of different kind of cruisers, but their main cruisers were the Star Destroyer and the Super Star Destroyer. Both meant to fight other flagships, therefore they would easily destroy the Republic. The First Order, while fleet is not much known about it from what we've seen in The Force Awakens and Aftermath and just other books like it. Well, Aftermath wasn't even about The Force Awakens, but just from what we know from novels and such, is that that from what we've seen so far, the fleet is not very big, and it uses just a modified Star Destroyer, if not just a Star Destroyer, and that could not fight up against more Star Destroyers and would be utterly destroyed by a Super Star Destroyer. So, space combat goes to the Empire. The next category is ground vehicles. ground vehicles would play a huge role in planetary battles. The clones had very many ground vehicles such as Juggernaut, IFXs, stun tanks, and the AT-TE. But while the Empire did not have too much unique, only the AT-ST, which is pretty much the AT-DP as from the clones. But the main unique thing is the AT-AT. It was a better version of the AT-TE and was just the ultimate ground vehicle. Unless the First Order has something that we haven't seen yet, which always seen the First Order is kind of a snow speeder type thing we saw in deleted scenes of The Force Awakens. But the AT-AT would completely demolish any land vehicle you put against it, therefore giving the Empire the point. The next category is variations, as armies need to be able to fight in many different climates and terrains during a galaxy-wide battle. The clones had a massive variety of troopers such as ARC, they had scuba troopers, they had airborne troopers. They just had a huge variety that were able to adopt to almost anywhere. While the Empire did have magma troopers, as we saw on Battlefront, they had scout troopers, they had Hoth snow troopers, which the clones also did have a version of snow troopers shown in Star Wars The Clone Wars. But they also had shadow troopers kind of sneak around, and then finally they had the shock troopers. But it just didn't compare to that of the clones, therefore giving the clones the edge. And from what we've seen from the First Order, all they special troopers they really have for combat is the Flame Trooper. So that category easily goes to the clones. The final category is super weapons. Super weapons would play a huge role in a war between these three armies. And first of all, the clones did not have one, so that automatically eliminates them from that category. While the Empire did have 2 Death Stars, and from non-canon sources more, such as the Sun Destroyer, I'm not considering that into the final tally though, as they were non-canon. But the First Order had Starkiller Base, which could do way more damage, able to destroy an entire system rather than a planet, and could fire and recharge much faster than that of the Death Star, giving it the big advantage over both Death Stars. So I would give that the number 1 spot, giving the First Order the win. So, in conclusion, the Empire would win according to these 7 categories, and I agree with that. While the clones would win in almost every ground battle, they would quickly lose space conflicts and lose the ability to launch invasions versus planets guarded by Imperial ships. The clones could also not break blockades, therefore trapping troops on planets to be bombarded and starved. The First Order, while it could launch a huge initial blow with Starkiller Base on either Kamino, Coruscant, just any of the controlled huge planets of either faction, it would be destroyed, ending the First Order chances because of all those troops going down with it. And then eventually the Empire would win in a long, starved out war versus the clones. They would eventually get them to surrender just by pure overwhelming them and starving and just really beating them in a very long war. This is my thoughts on what would happen if these 3 did get in a war. Make sure you leave your opinion in the comments below, and remember, Han shot first.